if there is an emergency, they know how, when, and where they're going to get support. That's the question for me.
And that's where they're supposed to come out with all the brochures. They're supposed to have their volunteers go through it. Our function is not going to change. We have our contingency plans to take care of our people. If they call 911, we're going to be there. Correct, Chief? You're going to be staged?
And they have, I mean, we've seen these races before on TV. They do have ambulances that are sometimes in the race. So we can kind of traffic them into one lane and let the ambulance go the other way, right? That's what you're thinking?
But Mr. Thomas,
One of the things that we asked for, wait a minute, before we go to, we asked for film footage of Caroline County and being able to give written scripts to the event folks in their narrative in exchange for our giving them fire and rescue in the sheriff's office. Am I not correct that we had that discussion?
That's when they talked about being a partnership.
And I'm curious where we are with that discussion, because that was because if that's off the table, then they fully owe us.
Have you seen the ads for the racing that are coming from Richmond? They're on all the Richmond channels, and there's nothing about Caroline.
Let me try to address a couple. We'll start over here with Mr. Underwood's question.
Thank you, Chief Loftus.
We have not done anything. Here's my concern, and the sheriff alluded to the volunteers at UCI is supposed to participate and put in the driveways. They're supposed to be there, but I know VDOT will actually put a cone there. I can count on VDOT. I'm concerned with 200 volunteers coming into the county to do this function when they need 3,500 across this one course. I'm a little skeptical on that. So to answer your question, we have done nothing. We, Caroline County, have done nothing to notify the residents. And that's something that I think as a county we need to undertake. We could certainly reach out to UCI, but they really haven't even started public meetings. They're advertising, but they haven't had the sit-down public meetings as Mr. Underwood has. So whether it's the sheriff's office or we do it together, we need to reach out to the citizens. There's going to be a cost to that.
And we understand that there may be a cost, and if we have to ensure the safety of the citizens, then we'll just have to eat the cost. But the reality of it is there should be some notification to make sure every resident in the back of their mind has a plan and understand what is the next step should something occur.
I agree
100%.
And
that's my concern. The UC, I mean, it's their race, but it's our citizens who are impacted. So we need to make sure that the impact is minimized. And that's what I told Mr. Miller, is that you have to assure me that you're going to minimize the impact to the citizens.
You know, Mr. Underwood, as we talked at your meeting, and that was great that the UCI people were there, and I know that Mr. and Mrs. James are here too, and those were some of the questions that came up. And they said that they were going to notify people, they were going to do that. We know that it is our county, and we will draft something up to help speed that along, because we already know that whether we close the roads or whether the governor does it, that the state police will do that, we're still going to take care of our people.
Right. So I agree. I think we should draft something regardless of what they do to notify, our citizens, to make sure that, they have a level of ease about what's taking place. There's no such thing as too much information.
No.
So,
But I mean, the issue really is the plan on how to get fire and rescue folks through the race.
Well, that's what they're going to do.
And we do.
Yeah.
We already have that, because there is time periods when a racer goes by, and we are familiar with that. That's part of our operational plan. But we'll put something together that would deal with our soft closure and the closure of the race and the time to open.
Okay, I guess one of the questions that I would have is that you're here, Chief, and you're here, Sheriff, but there's nobody here from UCI. And I mean, is that something that we should have? I mean, because I know they were there
They came in the beginning
right,
to ask for a partnership.
Right, but now that we are at the final stages, and we are dependent upon UCI to reimburse us for funds that we're going to put up. And I mean, there's nobody here from UCI who's saying to us, put the funds up, we're going to reimburse you. Because I guess I'm concerned about the county citizen safety, but I'm also concerned about county citizens' taxpayers' dollars being used, and we aren't really assured, well, maybe we are assured, I don't know, but there's nobody here saying if you put up X number of county dollars, this is not our money to spend, this is the citizens' money to spend. And I don't know that, I just think someone should be here who could reassure us from UCI that we're going to be reimbursed.
We were trying to get paid ahead of time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can we not have somebody from UCI here for your next board meeting?
That would be great.
I think that's what we need to do, and we'll put this in this letter when they owe us the money to make sure the representatives here to give us their entire plan.
Okay. All right. Yes, Mr. Black?
Just got, Mr. Parton, maybe you can answer this. What are just, I know the economic impact to other counties is going to be greater than ours, but as far as the reimbursement is concerned, what are the counties like Hanover and Wright, wherever it's going through, what are they doing as far as fire and rescue and so forth? As far as do we know that yet?
I can cover that. Keep in mind, in 2010, the city of Richmond, through its partnership with Richmond 2015, put in a bid for this race.
Okay.
When they got the race in 2011, they were awarded that. They went to the regional partners, okay, being Hanover, Chesterfield, and Henrico, and said, hey, what can you put up for this race? And I'll give you something that was published. Henrico County has agreed to provide about $860,000, including cash, administration costs, and has agreed to provide up to $540,000 for police services and ancillary events. So they've already put their money up to be a partner with this event. If you look at Hanover, Hanover will make a $100,000 cash contribution and provide services in the extent of $65,000. Chesterfield refused to participate in that part, so that you don't see the race in Chesterfield.
So those counties are actually paying for the fire and rescue services?
Those counties are putting those up, yes.
But if I could interrupt you, Mr. Black, for a moment, but those counties are going to be reimbursed because they're going to make money. They have the hotels, they have the other things. They're going to do the business that's going to bring them. Whereas Carolina is a little bit different. But I can tell you, the citizens of Hanover County are not going to fork over $500,000 if they're not going to get the money for it.
How many of these guys are coming in mobile home parks that we could park at the state fair and then make some money off of it? Maybe that's it. That's the only way we would get any impact at all.
Mr. Cully, can you answer the...
That's not an event for you? Oh.
Did they ever
Nice
answer
try.
up the media portion of this? They offered up scripts, film footage, the whole 9 yards.
Not to me. Our initial contacts with them that we had done prior to that, they weren't willing to do anything. I don't know whether Kathy's got any update from after they made that promise.
Because that was part of the deal. If they did that, then we were willing to be a partner. But if they haven't done that and they're advertising, then as far as I'm concerned, they've nullified that whole part of the deal.
Yeah, the only thing that the Sheriff's Office and Fire Rescue have been involved with is the planning for the event. The actual UCI administration has not reached back out to us probably since Mr. Underwood had them at their meeting. So we have had no contact with the management of UCI.
The reality of it is, this event is going to take place whether we like it or not. So we can sit here and posture and talk about, we need to make sure that we take care of the citizens to ensure them that they have everything they need should an emergency occur. I don't really care about the rest of it at this point because it's out of my control. I have no control. That's the governor's control. But I do have some control of what we do for the citizens and make it as painless as possible for this event to occur, go smoothly, and ensure safety for the citizens. That's my concern. That's all I'm concerned about. So if you guys can help me with that, we can come together and put a plan, we have it in place, I'd like to just then talk about how we get the information to the citizens so they have a comfort level and we move forward.
One thing we have a plan for that, and I'll go to Mr. Thomas. Your questions as far as response, we have an engine and ambulance at the Bull Ruler House on Meadow Event. So we can go north into Meadow Event under the tunnel. We can cover Meadow Event Farm, Sadie Lane. We have another ambulance at Baylor, so we can make the crossover to get down to Mount Gideon. So we're covered in there, and we have a plan. The sheriff's office has deputies there that can make those same crossovers. So we have the ability to get in and out of that area. So we do have a positive and hard and fast plan. The question is going to become, though, to the board, if they don't pay, if they choose not to pay the costs, what is the consequence? That we're not going to support the race? That I don't know. So
I don't think anybody wants to not support the race. I want our citizens, as Mr. Underwood has stated, I want our citizens to be safe. This board wants our citizens to be safe, and I'm sure you all want the same thing. But at the same time, if there is reimbursement, I want it. I don't want to just dump a check out there and have them think that it's okay. Right, okay.
I think that's our plan. We're going to tell them this is what we think it's going to cost.
Okay.
See what they do.
Yeah, okay.
Beforehand, not
Okay.
reimbursement.
Yeah, right away.
Okay.
We'll send them an invoice.
It sounds like they've got the safety part
that's locked
outlined.
Okay.
We do.
Okay.
And in the letter, we'll put in there that if they don't want to come through Caroline, they want to stay all in Hanover, they can do their phase 2. I didn't want to confuse it. We're good.
That's fine, too.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so that takes us to agenda item new business. Agenda item 8, request for expedited public hearing.
Chairman, I just have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Do we want staff to draft a letter to UCI and maybe get some answers to our questions about reimbursement?
I think that would be appropriate,
Can we-
yes. I think they were going to do that.
Oh, you're going to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 8, request for expedited public hearing. There is a motion in order.
Wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was distracted.
The expedited public hearing.
Oh, that's why everybody was looking at me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I thought Mr. Wilson was going to make a presentation first, or would you?
I
right.
think I think we're ready to.
All right,
But thank you, Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, whereas the County Department of Economic Development has been working with a prospect interested in purchasing land in the Carmel Church area of the county for several years to construct a large distribution center, and whereas the land in question needs to be rezoned to permit such use, and the time is of the essence with regard to rezoning in order for the project to move forward within the company's schedule and timeline, I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the public notice advertising holding of an expedited public hearing for the rezoning of the property, which will be identified by the Department of Economic Development at a later date prior to the publishing of the public notice. Such expedited public hearing to be held on October 13th, 2015, or such other date as may be expedient and beneficial to the project, provided that the Planning Commission of the county has taken action on the matter by such date.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that the request for expedited public hearing would be granted as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously. That takes us to the approval of documents associated with the funding of Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company station repairs and improvements. Chief, it's good to see you again. It's like you were just here.
I know it. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Before you tonight is the Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company renovation and repair capital improvement project for 2016. We're in the final steps of this long-standing project, about 2 years. For your consideration tonight are the legal documents associated with allowing a capital project in a volunteer-owned station. This is following the board's process that was approved in June of 2014. The final cost figure for the project, and if the board so chooses, to award the construction bid for the project. Because at this point this project spanned almost 2 years, I'd like to take a moment and just recap some of the milestones. If you'll turn to your board packet, the fire rescue submittal, I'll just go down those milestones very quickly. September of 2013, Kevin Whiteman, chief building official for the county, was called out to the fire station to inspect the second floor. A Upon his inspection, he found a delamming of the second floor plywood as well as some structural deficiencies resulting in the closure of the second floor of the station. All operations ceased upstairs and were moved downstairs. In February of 2014, Chief Melson came before this board and discussed that project and expanding that project into a renovation because they were going to have to tear down the first floor ceiling, redo electrical, redo lights, redo the floor span, and trying to make that into a more comprehensive project. In April of 2014, our department brought forth to the board a set of recommendations to allow funding in a volunteer fire station using county funds. In June of 2014, the board approved that process, and we'll go over that process in detail. September of 2014, the county hired an architect to develop the detailed site plan and the bid documents necessary to go out and find a final cost for that project. In December of 2014, the board approved $600,000 and change for capital improvements in the fire rescue department, and this was one of those projects at the time. And I'll skip down to June 2015. The project went out for invitation to bid through Public Works, and then the July of 2015, the bids have been received and have been opened. At this point, following the board's process for this, we have three main provisions to allow for funding in a volunteer fire station or a property that the county does not own. The first one of those is a condition, and I'll summarize, that if the property or the company is no longer able to function as a volunteer fire company, that property and its assets would revert back to the county. And Mr. Emerson has provided the documents there, and he can talk of those in detail in here in a minute, to allow that to happen. So, for example, if we fund this project and down the road that volunteer fire company no longer exists or is not able to meet the standards, the county would have ownership of that property to be used as a fire station. The second provision, if the company was seeking funding, it must allocate a minimum of 50% of the required funds unless it can prove satisfactory evidence of its inability to provide those funds. And District Chief Melson is here to address that issue to the board. And the third provision, in the event a portion or all of the costs are paid for by the county would have oversight of the project and would follow its procurement process. Mr. Schiebel is here to address that provision, but the bids have gone out through the county procurement process, and Public Works would oversee the construction and renovation project. At this point, Mr. Schiebel has reported that the project, with a 10% contingency added to that, as you see in the packet, would be $292,000 and some change. To give you a recap of what you have available, $150,000 was approved for this project in the fiscal year 16 for capital improvements. Fire Rescue has a capital reserve fund, and it does have an unobligated balance of $164,000, which you could use that to balance off the rest of that fund. So with that, District Chief Melson, if you'll come up and address Division 2.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've got some talking points to discuss with y'all, and there's enough copies. I hope to. I'll wait till y'all get them before we go over them, and that way we can kind of track it. First of all, I appreciate everybody's patience, the cooperation that we continue to have with Chief Loftus, and the support that Kevin Whiteman from the building department has provided us as well as Public Works and Joey Schiebel. So to start off the top of it, I've got a snapshot of the time period from when we started this to where we are today, September 2013 to August 1st of 2015. We currently have about 40, give or take. Every month we lose one, gain two, and it math averages out. I got 40 personnel that I'm responsible for supervising out of our station, and that's around the clock from typically from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and 24 hours a day on the weekends. Career staff, the county provides us 2 career providers at our station Monday through Friday from 6 in the morning till 6 in the afternoon. So those guys are there, and ladies, are there from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening, Monday through Friday. I've listed the current apparatus that's assigned to our station and a valve replacement cost of today's date of what they would do if we had to replace them. I've also put the current assessed value of our facility and the acreage associated to such in the tune of $681,000 was the last tax assessment was done on our property. From the times at 6 p.m. till 6 at night, 6 in the morning, over that 2-year period, we've had to answer 2,157 emergency calls out of our fire station. Of those, 96% of them, we were out the door in less than 5 minutes. It's imperative that we have a facility that we can house people overnight to get out the door properly. Currently, out of 40 members, less than 3 live within a 5-minute typical drive to our fire station, and we can't answer calls for service at that time frame. Dispatch to on scene puts us there at your doorstep in less than 10 minutes. And that's going all the way to Cromwell Church, going as far down Page Road as to almost South River. And a lot of these calls, typically we put a staffed engine on everything. My firehouse is staffed on the majority of the time 5 nights a week at a minimum. And we're putting on calls all over the county. So during the same amount of reporting time, we've conducted 26 classes out of our firehouse and trained over 360 students for a total of 20,750 man hours that we've trained out of this facility out of living out of one floor and conducting training and running emergency calls out of it at the same time. My volunteer staff alone have staffed 25,041 hours of their time towards the community and serving in capacity of answering fire calls, training, staffing the firehouse, maintaining it, actually being there on call overnight to make sure we can answer your call. Currently, the hourly rate that's associated from virginiaservice.org is a volunteer's time is worth $24.90 an hour in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Take that plus 26,079 hours. That alone, in almost 2 years, we've saved the county $649,367 in man hours alone. That's not benefits or associated with such. Currently, we have $13,000 in our checking account. Our savings account has $54,000, give or take. These amounts were taken when I did this document about a week ago. We just got the bill last night. I had to resurface our parking lot. It was getting to the point, it was deteriorating to a point where if we didn't do something with it, we would be in the same condition as other ones. We've asked for it in numerous years past, countless times for the last 8 that I know of, to get that through a CIP. It just doesn't get funded, so we got to the point where we had to do it on our own. That check I wrote last night for $6,820. So those accounts, of course, are a little bit changing. We hold a minimum of 3 meetings a month there, just internally alone. Some of you folks on the board have held town meetings there, town hall meetings. We've also had the DMV to go, comes every quarter, parks in the parking lot, uses the facility as well. Previous public meetings, fundraisers for community organizations have been held there over the numerous years that we've been in existence. We've got an increased level of efficiency for electricity and water usage worked into the plans that we've come up with. This will allow for separate men and women sleeping quarters. That's just the way in the day. I mean, it's 2015. We can't get by with the way we did it when I started 24 years ago. Will allow for separate men's shower facilities for the same reasons. Plus, it's going to allow us a tiered level of secured access to our living and meeting room areas. So the way that we design the plans now, a citizen rings the doorbell, they come into a welcoming foyer area, and it's secured. So once they come in, they have to get allowed access to certain portions of the facility. If y'all would like to have a meeting upstairs in the meeting area that will be up there, then that's fine. It will allow people to come in, go through that way, go straight to the meeting room area, but not have access to all our personnel records, our living space, certain areas like that. And allows for ADA compliance restrooms on on the first floor, which currently we don't have. So I've attached a copy of our training record, and if you flip to page 3, there's a panoramic view of what our facility that we've been living out of for almost 2 years. To the far left is the front door when you walk in. You pass through the kitchen, the office, the day room, our sleeping area, bathrooms, and our dining area, all in one 15-step path. And our guys have coexisted like this for almost 2 years. We're trying to remedy that tonight. We, as a fire department, are not in a financial situation to where we can fund half this project, as one of those provisions is stated. And I'm coming before you tonight asking you to fund the full amount to have this project completed. I've got the support of my department and its membership and we're in agreement with the provisions there to sign what the county attorney has drawn up. And we're putting up a $681,000 piece of property for a $266,000 note. We've dedicated countless hours and saved the county countless hundreds of thousands of dollars in our time alone, only because we want to serve the county. And that's what we're asking for tonight, is to get that support back and the fact that we can move forward, maintain that firehouse in a ready state. We're going to have some money that's going to have to go out. We're going to try to move temporarily into our old firehouse, because in order to get this contract done, I've allowed them 24-hour access to our current living space at the fire station so that we can get this project done sooner and get the fire station back in service. So we're going to have to spend a few $1,000s to get our old firehouse to where we can actually stay in it overnight, get phone service over there, get heat, get air conditioning. I got to move a bathroom trailer in with showers so that if somebody gets contaminated at a scene, that we can get them back, get them showered, because I won't have shower or restroom facilities. And that's a cost that we're willing to incur as well during this process, to include furnishing, et cetera. We asked in the original project plan to have office cubicle spaces upstairs. That was cut out, so we're going to have to fund that down the road to get portable partitions put in some form or fashion so that we can office space and cube out the second floor of the facility. Right now, it's left to where all our living area will be on the first floor. The meeting room, training center, a conference room, and a bathroom is upstairs, and the rest of it's an open floor plan. But at this point, I want my firehouse back, and I don't have it right now.
Thank you, sir. Do you have anything else, Chief?
If you have any questions for Chief Melson? Do we have any questions on the procurement process, the process the county used to acquire the bids, the construction drawings? Mr. Schiebel is here to answer those if the board has any of those.
Okay, let me just kind of recap. You're asking for how much? Just for
$292,000.
Okay.
Cost of the
Up to $292,000.
$292,278.
Okay, and originally it was a sort of a 50-50 agreement.
Well, this has never been done before. So the board has not invested this quantity of money into a station or a building it does not own in the volunteer system or in the career system. So this is new charted water. Back in June, you adopted a policy which we needed to follow, and we have followed that.
Okay.
One of those conditions was the company themselves would have to put up a certain amount of money,
Right.
or tell you why they were not able to do that. And I think he's done that.
Okay.
You know how much he has in his bank.
And it's just for clarity. I'm just,
sir.
that I'm asking that. Okay. Are there other questions?
I have one.
Mr. Sealy?
Chief Nelson, you said a note that for us to give you a note.
That was just
Okay,
figuratively speaking, sir.
okay,
Yes, sir.
so we understand that we're going to pay for it, and then the agreement is if you guys cease to exist, we just get the building.
Yes, sir.
And okay, I just wanted
Yes,
to make sure
yes,
there
sir.
wasn't.
That was just
That's okay.
a relative term that I'd used.
Okay.
We're leveraging that property against the money that y'all are lending us to take care of the repair. We're actually not the receiving end of this contract. Caroline County is actually the one that's paying the builder to fix our facility.
I just wanted to make sure we were
Yes, sir.
clear, that's all.
No, sir, no, sir.
Thank you.
So you're not putting up your building as collateral for this note, which is what you said.
Not
For the
literally.
for the funding.
Literally, no.
Right.
Figuratively, I'm signing over a document
Right.
to the county saying that if we cease to exist down the road,
That's the
that
only
a
catch you
facility
have.
that my members built 30
Right.
plus years ago gets turned over to the county.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Akins, did you?
Yeah, I do. And it's not a question as much as it is hoping that this board will see fit to move forward with this building improvements and renovations and to pay the whole thing. Chief Loftus, there's money left in the CPI fund, or CIP fund rather, for the improvements to buildings wherever, not just this building, but other buildings throughout the county.
If you were to fund this project completely, there's still another $22,000 of unobligated money.
Yep.
There's still money associated with the Bowling Green Fire Station, which we wanted to finish one project
Right.
and then move to the next. And we would probably have funds based on what we rolled over from 2015 to fund that project as well. So
Okay.
you have the funding. It's up to you how you
Okay.
fund it.
I'm just, my point is the fact that this organization has been in place for many, many years. It has saved the county taxpayers a lot of money. And if the volunteers decide to walk away because they cannot live under conditions and operate and work under the conditions that they're now operating under, then this county, if we choose not to fund it, then he's not going to sign his building over saying if they cease to exist, that the county gets the building. So we would then have to go out and build a new fire station. We'd have to go out and pay the career people to run this operations there. I just think it makes sense. To me, it's a no-brainer to do this, and I trust this board will see fit to do just that.
Okay. Other board comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Black?
I'm Chief Nelson. I want to thank you for coming. These statistics are very good. Obviously, I'm sorry that it's taken 2 years. That's been a little frustration overall as the length of the time is taken, but it's something that you guys definitely deserve. You do a great service to the county, so I really think that everyone should support this. I don't see why it's kind of a no-brainer.
Thank you. And it's like I said almost 2 years ago, if I could literally afford to do this project on our own, I wouldn't have spent the last 2 years battling this and doing the paperwork and the legwork and going through these steps to come before y'all. It's a very humbling experience as the leader of our organization that's been in place for almost 60 years now. So.
Other board comments? The only thing I would add is I certainly have no problem with what's being asked of the board personally. The only thing I would say is that we need to understand that we're going to get follow-up situations like this.
Do you not think we've already gotten follow-up, Mr.
Well, we
We've
will,
already gotten follow-up.
and I understand, but I just want us to know that we need to do the same thing the next time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion.
And even for those that don't exist yet, we need to do the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
If I may interject, at this point, you're just making a motion to approve the legal documents, and then we'll ask for a second motion to award the bid.
You heard what Mr. Loftus said that motion was going to be. So
Okay.
that's my
Any
motion.
question of Mr. Emerson?
The resolution, if you just adopt the resolution that's in front of you.
Mr. Chairman,
That would take
my
care of
motion is to adopt the resolution that has been presented to us tonight dealing with the Ladysmith Fire Department.
Second.
It's been moved in proper second that we adopt the resolution as before us in its entirety. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen.
One more.
Okay, now, is it? Oh, okay. Agenda item 10, the awarding of the bid for Ladysmith Fire Company repairs and improvements.
Mr.
A
Chairman,
motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the award the bid of for the Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company repairs and improvements to Williams Contractors. That who got the bid?
Second.
It's been moved properly second that we would approve the awarding of the bids for Ladysmith Volunteer Fire Company repairs and improvements as presented. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item number 11, the first reading of Chapter 45, Environmental Regulations. Mr. Fincham.
Now, let's finish, because it's already.
Okay, if you start talking, they'll stop talking.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next item on the agenda tonight is a first reading for the what we want to call the environmental chapter of the county code. The county currently has a floodplain ordinance which is actually contained in the zoning ordinance. It was last updated in 2009 when there were updates to the floodplain maps and our ordinance that was in place at that time. Since then, the Virginia Department of Conservation, in concert with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has come up with a new model ordinance, which they have now directed localities that have floodplain regulations to go back in and update their ordinances. Hence the reason we are here tonight. We're following with state and federal requirements to update our floodplain management regulations. As part of that, however, we thought this would be the appropriate time to begin the transition from having our different environmental regulations in different ordinances and to consolidate those regulations into one chapter of the county code, which we believe will be easier for everybody to reference the regulations in one place versus having to look in multiple sections of the zoning ordinance, multiple sections of the county code. We would propose to consolidate these and all future regulations, Chesapeake Bay Preservation, stormwater management, if and when the board chooses to adopt those regulations, into this one chapter, which currently are the erosion and sediment control regulations for the county. So we would use this chapter to begin that transition. The model ordinance that you have before you tonight is currently being reviewed by DCR and is not quite ready for public hearing. We have to get their comments back and incorporate them if there are any changes into the final document. But the purpose was to get this to you. Again, this is being mandated by the Commonwealth of Virginia and FEMA as part of their regulatory update. The second item that is included in here is an issue near and dear to Mr. Black's heart, which is to, as construction projects come to completion in the county, the board's aware that we've got a number of soil stockpile piles throughout the county. As part of this process, we have included language that would ensure that those stockpiles are addressed and removed prior to the completion of future projects in the county. We've also included that in the E&S regulations. So with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members have questions for Mr. Fincham? Okay.
I have one,
okay.
two.
Mr. Sealer.
Mr. Fincham, I guess consolidating this into one reference, does it have any effect on building permits or zoning?
No, sir. We would make sure everything's cross-referenced as part of that process.
And my second comment is basically on page 1 where it says, and I don't know if this is a change, but it says that where's the purpose of this chapter is to prevent the degradation of properties, streams, channels, waters, and other natural resources of Caroline County by establishing requirements for the control of soil erosion, sediment deposition, and non-agricultural runoff, and by estimating or by establishing procedures whereby these requirements shall be administered and enforced. And that only brings one question to mind, in that when we have a failed drain field and we've allowed those drain fields to be abandoned and to be pre-treated and dumped into non-named water sources, how will this affect us in that
This does not
situation?
affect that at all. This is simply related to erosion, the erosion and sediment control regulations adopted under ENS law.
Even under the non-agricultural runoff?
That is your runoff and development that you get from, say, a construction site.
Okay, I'm just, we've never really resolved that issue, and I didn't know what this was going to do to that issue.
I would say that issue's still unresolved. That's
So-
not part of this.
That was the genesis of my question, and that's all I've got for tonight.
Okay, you said we're not ready for public hearing. Could we approve it pending information from the state saying that it's in order or everything is okay? Would the board like to approve it pending that, or would you want to just put it on hold until?
Yeah, put it on. This is just first reading.
Okay,
I do have a question, Mr. Fincher.
okay.
When we talk about the large stockpiles of dirt,
Yes, sir.
and we talk about until a project is completed, Ladysmith Village, for instance, the project is not completed.
Correct.
So they keep, in fact, they keep excavating the development to build new homes at, and that they're dumping the dirt over there on those stockpiles and making them even higher in certain places. And I think the same thing with the development of the property where the bank is.
Yes, sir.
That project is not completed as to the way that it was laid out and the way it was approved. So at what point do you consider a project complete? I mean, is it after it's built out, or?
Where we have phase projects, I think we would look at it on a phase-by-phase basis.
Now, Ladysmith Village is in phase one, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And as part of the build-out of phase one, let's go to phase two, okay? Because the regulations would take effect once you adopt them.
Gotcha.
You have a phase two, as part of their site plan, they would identify where the soil stockpiles are going to be and how those are going to be remediated by the end of the completion of that phase. It's not something that gets put off for 10, 15, 20 years to the last phase. We get to that last phase and they say, oh, by the way, we don't have enough land area to take care of this. We're going to look at that on a phase-by-phase approach.
Good, okay. Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments? If not, we will table it, then it seems the board would like to table it until.
We'll just
we get-
continue the first reading.
Well, okay. All right, that takes us to informational calendar items.
We included in your packet, Fred ridership report and your capital projects report. You can see we are getting close to finishing the radio system, and we'll have Deputy Chief Garnett here on the first meeting in September to give you an update of where we are. We hope to have a firm schedule from Motorola on the completion of that now. We did finally get our last tower. They've gotten the equipment installed there, so we're hoping to finish up this fall before the leaves fall. So I can't give you the exact dates because we haven't gotten them from Motorola yet, but we hope to have that for September 8th.
We haven't done the leaf test yet?
Well, no, the system's not complete.
Okay, but I thought they were going to do station to station or something like that, so they could do.
No, the prime site was Stars, unfortunately.
Right.
That's where the head-in equipment,
Okay.
we had to have that site.
That's
So
right.
we just started getting the equipment installed there, the hut's there, and we had to do a little bit of tower work. But anyway, so they'll be installing the dispatch equipment, and we'll start doing coverage testing where we go in they grid off the whole county and ride in every grid and see what the reception and the quality is. We'll give you a better update on that at the September meeting. We have Mr. Underwood's meeting on September 3rd. We have Labor Day, September, the Monday right after that, September 7th. Our meeting